o'clock. Okay, everyone, thank you for coming. I want to call the February 23rd, 2022 meeting of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission to order. Just to go through an important notice here is pursuant to Senate Bill 2475, signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16, 2021, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GL General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18. This meeting of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. All meetings and hearings listed in the agenda will also be done so through the remote participation. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.shrewsburyma.gov/coronavirus. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. To listen to this meeting, dial 1-650-966-6532 and enter the following PIN. Be 177-850-189#. And please mute your device. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I want to make sure everyone's here, so I'm going to do a roll call. Mr. Pica.
Present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Sergeant Vitos, I understand he's not going to make it.
I am present today.
Oh, you are present. Great.
Yes.
Good to hear from you, Mike. Okay. Captain DeAndre or Sergeant Garamond? You're not hearing that yet? Okay. Mr. Polito?
Here.
Okay. Ms. Doherty?
Here.
Ms. Amory? Hear from her. Ms. Labossiere?
Here.
All the way from beautiful Florida?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Nelson?
Present.
Thank you. Okay, here we are. I want to review and act on the acceptance of minutes of the November 2021 and January 2022 meeting minutes. Did everyone get a chance to peruse those?
Yes.
And is there any questions or comments? Okay, I'll accept the motion to approve and accept those.
Second it.
Make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve the minutes as so presented.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we'll do a roll call. Mr. Pica?
Aye.
Sergeant Vitos?
Aye.
Mr. Polito?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Aye.
Ms. Labossiere?
Yes.
And Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
And myself. So voted. Thank you. And item number 4, moving right along, review and approval of bills and expenses. Do we have bills and expenses, Angela?
There are no bills this month.
No bills this month.
No.
Okay.
Good.
Well, we got out of that. That's easy. And also we have number 5 is public participation. We didn't get anyone to sign up, or?
No, we had no requests.
No requests? Okay. And the next item on the agenda is review and possibly approve the Quinsigamond Rowing Association crew regattas for April, May with boat ramp closures. Is there a representative from the Rowing Association here at this point?
Yeah. It's Patrick Higgins.
Oh, hey, Patrick. How are you? So what do we got?
Pretty much the schedule that we have tried prior COVID. We have regular season race dates starting on April 2nd. And then we start the championship races on April 31st.
Okay, so the closure dates are the weekend of April 29th, 30th, and May 1st.
Yep.
And then the next weekend,
Yep.
on Saturday and Sunday, so you want to close on Friday in the April one. You want to close Saturday and Sunday on 7th and 8th of May.
Yeah, on Friday it'd just be a closing at noontime.
A closing at noontime.
Yes.
Okay, it's not on here, so okay.
Yeah,
So that'd be the 6th, right?
Friday 4/29 it'd be from 12 to 7 p.m.
Oh, I'm sorry. Friday 4/29 would be 12. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm skipped ahead to the other.
Yeah.
So Saturday is 5 to 7, or 5, 7, and 5, 8. You want a closure. The next weekend as well.
Yep.
The 14th and 15th, and then Saturday the May 21st. You want to close.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think we need to close on the 21st. We don't have.
No.
Okay. No, we don't have a significant race, championship race that weekend. So no, we don't need closure on the 21st. No.
Okay, and then 5/28. That's Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, and I could not remember how we did that the last time. I want to say we closed the ramp but left it open for lake residents. I couldn't remember. That would have been back in 2019.
Right. I don't remember either, to be frank.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would be reasonable to. I don't know how you do that. Actually, how you people launching their boats while you're doing the crew. I mean, you need to have a lane open on that side of the pond, on the Shrewsbury side,
Right, and that
during the whole regatta anyway. But
Right.
Putting boats in and out seems to be a lot to manage.
Well, we're going to have, remember when the ramp is closed, even if it's not closed, we have a detail on the ramp.
At the top. Okay.
No, actually we'd have one on those days. We'll have one down at the
actual ramp.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, my preference would be to, that's where you always get pushback because it's Memorial Day weekend. It's a Saturday. People are putting their boats in,
The other thing that it does buy us time on, and you'll notice that one, it was a 7 a.m. to a 10 p.m. We take the course out on that Saturday night. And we keep Shrewsbury PD usually stays out with us to help keep us safe. But I think we kept the ramp closed.
Okay.
And just did something and told the environmental police or the Shrewsbury police to allow people, local residents to come in. I don't know how they did it, but I think it went pretty well last time. And what we avoided in 2019 were a ton of boats dropping into the water at 6 o'clock at night. And then when we had all these boats pulling the course out, because that can be kind of scary, dangerous if we have a lot.
Yeah, because I would imagine they don't know what you're doing.
No, they have no idea.
That's the cable. Yeah, right.
Hey, Patrick, this is Jason
That's what I
Steele.
recall. It was just so busy around the Donahue Boathouse with the pulling of the course that it was already crowded.
Okay.
Jason, do you remember what we did?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So my recollection is exactly what Patrick thought. The ramp was closed. The detail officer. There's actually 2 officers that essentially are in that ramp area. There's one up at the traffic, Shrewsbury Police, and then there's an officer down at the boat ramp. And then if a resident came and said that they were putting their boat in for the weekend, they would let them out. They would explain the traffic pattern and they would let them go on their way because they were just bringing their boats presumably to their house to moor them. And then general public, it was not open. And to your point, Patrick, the course coming out that night, I think what we had concerns with is the possibility that you have a bunch of people that are not local that are just out there in jet skis, whatever the case may be, while we're trying to get the course out in advance of Memorial Day. So,
All right, so you want the closure to go through 10 p.m., not give you enough time?
Yes.
And
Usually finish up by 9, but
and this will allow for residents. I guess I have a question, Angela. Can we just can we open it up to just residents and not is that violate some state rule that either it's closed or it's not closed?
I think at the state level with fishing and boating access, they would say that it's either closed or open.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
if the EPOs allow somebody in, that's on them, but I don't think we can advertise that it's open for residents only because it's going to be hard to verify that somebody's a resident.
Okay.
And I know
All right, so
that if I could just say one other thing, we did talk about it at after the last, when you did have races, that it was hard for you to take the course down with the ramp open at 6 o'clock, and that the board did discuss, continuing the closure till at night.
yes. And then my experience, Angela, is exactly that. Essentially, it's been advertised as closed, but the officers use their discretion at the ramp, and that they've told us that they have that authority to just sort of make decisions as to if they feel it prudent to let a resident to just come in, that they've just made that decision. So I'm not so sure we publicly advertised it as open to residents. I think it's just more the officers using discretion on how to manage a closed ramp.
Okay. I just want to know how to word the announcement and the permit. So if we're comfortable with that, then I'm okay with it. Is there any discussion from the board?
Mr. Chair, could we have a review of those dates again? I believe it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, I may have 4/29 and 4/30, 5/1, 5/7 and 8, 5/14 and 15, and 5/28. If I stand to be corrected, please correct me.
5/21 as well, Mike.
no, 5.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're not doing 5/21. Sorry. Never mind.
Sorry.
So
Just to clarify, though, there is a race on 5/21. It's just not requiring a boat ramp closure.
Right. There's races on, basically every weekend in April through the end of May. The only ramp closures we're going for is, basically the first, all the weekends I'm sorry, 3 of the weekends in May, which is the weekend of 4/29 to 5/1, 5/7 to 5/8, 5/14 to 5/15, and then on Saturday the 28th. And that's it. Does that answer your question, Mike?
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other comments or discussion? All right. There being none, I'll take a motion to approve these dates.
I make a motion to approve these dates.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Let's go through the Mr. Pica,
Aye. And
Sergeant Vitos,
aye.
Mr. Polito,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Labossiere,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay. Thank you. So voted.
Thank you very
I
much.
skipped one. My vertical dyslexia here. So I forgot commissioners' reports. So we'll go through those. I'm gonna hold my report off until the lake management section, so I'm not doubling up on it. Mr. Pica?
Chair, first of all, at this point in time, I don't see where anybody should be on the ice. The lake is breaking up. It's black. It's cellular. There's sections of the lake that are just wide open right now. I wouldn't be surprised if the whole lake is clear in about 14 days. Number two, Mr. Chair, Seen a lot of wildlife, common mursangers, never mind regular mallard and wood ducks, hawks. I've seen the eagles as recently as this afternoon. And number three, Mr. Chair, I believe we'll talk about this later, but let me try to be succinct in terms of my comments and concerns in terms of the recent insult to the lake of approximately 6 million gallons of sewage pouring in at the Lake Ave station. You know, unfortunately, it happens, and it happens too often. And there's a need for, a backup system, not just for Lake Ave, but I believe for Whitler Drive. And we really just can't accept having this happen every 2 or 3 years. There needs to be an adequate alarm system to let it be known. Apparently, it was a visual inspection that realized that the pipe and the pump had broken. I understand City Councilor Russell brought up to the council's attention that, there was for all the alarms, the safeguards they have, they did not have an alarm for that. And I believe I read in the paper, and I hope it occurs, but that maybe even the city of Worcester needs to have an outside agency come in to have an outside point of view in terms of how the system could otherwise be managed, overviewed, safeguarded, which, if it included another pumping station, I don't think anybody would be against it. I understand Lake Ave's the lowest section of the lake, but the other concern I have is not just that, with Whitler Drive taking on the Route 20 Edgemere project with UMass. I have some concerns and a question I would also want to ask in terms of, does UMass also get facilitated in terms of all the sewage from that whole UMass biotech project by Lake Ave to pump over the hill? Because if so, we have some, serious concerns in terms of the amount of sewage that Lake Ave and Whitler Drive have a responsibility for, and the need for backup systems, needs for adequate alarms, and maybe even to consider alternatives. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your time.
Okay, thank you. Just to kind of let everyone know that there actually Jay Fink, who's the commissioner, is here to talk about this, so we can defer those particular comments, if that's what's in your report, to when Jay presents this. So that's coming up next. Sergeant Vitos?
I have nothing really to report. We are looking forward to the upcoming season. We'll start creating a game plan sometime in late March, early April.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Mr. Polito?
Nothing to report that's not on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Doherty?
No report from Grafton.
Thank you. Ms. Labossiere?
No report.
Okay, and Mr. Nelson?
Only one thing to report. The Quinsigamond Rowing Club is not active on the lake. It's doing its rowing indoors on ergs and at the Holy Cross tank up on the Holy Cross Hill. They probably won't be in the water till about the same time that the QRA starts its racing schedule. That's all I have to report.
Wow, you get to use the tank?
Yes, at Holy Cross.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, thank you. Okay, so I want to move on to the lake management portion of our program, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is the recent spill we had in the lake, which is now contained, and looks like we're getting better readings than we had before. But Jay Fink is Commissioner of Public Works. Jay, I don't know.
Good evening. It's the Commissioner of Public Works and Parks for the City of Worcester. Yes.
Okay, so Jay's nice enough to come on here and I guess face the music a little bit. One thing I want to kind of bring about, Jay's going to make a presentation and tell us what he's what those guys have planned. This is an informational thing. This isn't here to beat up on the commissioner. So we're all sitting in these seats and we're all doing what we can. So I'm going to let Jay take it from here. So thanks, Jay.
Thank you, and to the commission, thank you for having me. Unfortunate, yeah, it's an unfortunate situation that brings me in front of you. Hearing the sentiments, I've heard many of other similar sentiments as far as, sewage into the lake and the atrocity thereof. And I have to agree with it. It's not something that should be permitted, should be accepted, should be looked anything other than, what happened and how do we prevent that going forward. I'm going to spare most of the details because I think most of this group is pretty well educated on what occurred back on Sunday, February 6th, with regards to an overflow that occurred. In a nutshell, it was a system failure in the pump station in that a leak developed in one of the pumps. So, if you will, the pump was still pumping. The flow was still flowing, so there was nothing immediately that would set off an alarm signal. And what occurred was there was a leak developed in an area that there should not have been a leak, and it was anticipated that that area was somewhat confined and normally dry. That houses the pumps, houses all the electrical panels, houses all the controls. The result of that hole that developed in the pump allowed water to develop, and it wasn't until the water got to a height of a few feet that it actually started to short out the electrical panel, the controls for the pump, and that's when the station went in full failure. There's been questions, well, don't you have alarms? And in that station, there are 248 alarm points. Was there an alarm point in the dry area of the pump looking for liquid? There was not. After the fact quarterback and say, well, there should have been, and there will be, but the point remains that there was not at that given point in time. As soon as the operator came into the station, or actually came in on duty on 7 o'clock that morning at the Quinsigamond Combined Station over on Quinsigamond Ave, that's when he saw the alarm panel had lit up for Lake Ave Pump Station, made the immediate calls. The head operator could pull up the video on his phone and see that the station was in complete failure, and in fact, there was an overflow occurring. At which point, the immediate call went out for an outside contractor to mobilize, report to the station, additional crews to come in, report to the station, and by approximately within an hour, there was an awful lot of response occurred at that station. The next 36 hours did involve a whole lot of work to get a pump back online and cause that overflow to cease. We have since set up, there's actually, if you go by, you'll see 4 pumps sitting in that parking lot, all connected to the various levels of piping, which is a complete redundant station outside at a moment's notice could kick in and pump the sewage out of that area. So right now the station is operating under an existing pump within the station, but there is automatic controls to make it switch over to a completely redundant second system, which sits outside the station, which will enable it to pump. The purpose for setting up that second system was when we were looking at repairing the station, getting it back online, we didn't know if we were going to be successful in doing that or not because everything was underwater. So we immediately ordered additional pumps to be set up in the event that we could not get it back up and running. And that's what we're using as an auxiliary station if we need to. We will be charging that station, that exterior station up, running those pumps so that we can take specific pumps out of service within the station, but it's envisioned that those exterior pumps will probably be running during the day when work is going on. They are there in the event that we need it in an emergency, but it's not anticipated at this time that we're going to be looking at running those exterior pumps around the clock. Those pumps will make noise when they are activated. They are, diesel pumps that will make a fair amount of noise, which is why we don't want to be running those around the clock, and we will be using the use of those, with due diligence in respect for the neighbors that are surrounding the station. At this point, we have engaged an outside engineering firm that has already been to the site and evaluated and looked at certain components of it. There's an awful lot of investigation that still needs to occur. We do have a outside contractor the name's RH White. They are a very large contractor that deals in these types of systems. They were part of the first responder team. They also provide routine maintenance to that station. They have basically set up shop and have been stationed there since, making repairs to the station to try and get things back online. The engineers will come in and, as those components are put back online, run further analysis to see, exactly what's going on with the station. Is there something that's problematic within the station? Is there a better mousetrap to be built? And then finally, what options will exist going forward as far as, that may need to be done to make that system in the pump station much better than what sits there today. I know that the city had spent approximately $10 million 6-7 years ago, but clearly with the track record of the station, there's additional work that needs to be done. And that's sort of where we are at this point in time. As far as going forward, what the plans are, what we hope to do, I would only tell you this, and that we are going to evaluate that station, what's there, what's happening with it, what happened to it, and then if need be, get a second and third opinion before we go and look at what our final option or solution will be. And as far as I can tell you, there's nothing off the table right now. There's been talk of, does the station need to be there? Can a second station be put there? The Whitla Drive station was put in place. What did that have an impact on this station? It did. It did take some of the flow off of there. Are there other things that could be done? I will tell you that last week, the city manager toured the station and basically looked at me and said, you tell me what you need for money, what we need to do to, make this a better station. And to be frank, it was too early to tell. We've got a lot of work to do to look at the station and really figure out why is this station problematic? There are challenges with the site. It has been rehabbed. Was the rehabilitation the right thing to do? Should it have been, portions of it just been, demolished and rebuilt? We don't know. And that's why we have to rely on some expert advice to come in and really point us in the right direction of what our options are going forward. What does that mean for the redundancy of the system, as well as the, being a good steward sitting next to the lake? How can we assure that these types of things should not, could not, will not happen going forward?
Okay. I have a couple questions. One is the outside pumps. Are those going to remain or be removed after the repairs are finished?
The plan is, and we basically were renting those pumps. We grabbed those pumps. Those pumps came from as far as Baltimore, because it is somewhat of a unique situation because of the amount of head that those pumps are trying to push against. A lot of people have big pumps, but you need special pumps to push it that high up.
Yeah.
So the ultimate goal will be to actually try and purchase a pump and have it sitting there hooked up in the event that we have a failure, that we can flick a switch, as opposed to try to create something or fabricate something, or even have to pull a pump in from the other side of town. The ideal goal would be to have something sitting right there. That's the thought process right now.
Okay. And the other question I have on the Whitler station, are there similar redundancies being established over at that point? If this spill had happened there, it would have been a different, it would have been way more catastrophic actually, but it would have been a different thing because it's only 20 feet deep. It would, it's not going to, the fortunate part about this is where the pump station is on Lake Ave is that, it's sitting in front of, the South Basin, which is, 65 feet deep, and there's a lot of water volume, and, it can organically kind of remediate itself. But Whitler and South Bay is not like that. That's more of a, typical New England lake that's a little bit shallower, and, there's a limited access to get out right by Mr. Piker's house, actually, to get through there if things have to move. So, and I know that as these projects at the Edgemere Drive-In and the one east of that is coming online, that, that's going to be taking that capacity there. So it's, Whitler's going to be, Whitler's going to have a full-time job pumping the stuff it needs to pump. So I'm just wondering if that's, if we have similar redundancy plans for that station in case something should happen there.
And one of the things we're looking at is, Whitler Drive and the other stations, looking at it, if there is a catastrophic failure, what does it take to set up a bypass pump to be able to do those same types of things? With Lake Ave, again, because it's a unique situation with the size of pump and uniqueness of the pump that you need to put there to set up a bypass pump, again, because it's got so much head that needs to push out. With other pump stations, you wouldn't have exactly that. However, what we are planning at is looking at, sort of an emergency response plan for each station. And in a station, if there needs to be a coupling or a specific piping or something else, set up so that I can, wheel a pump over and plug in the pump and turn it on, then we want to have all those connections already there, already established, already have a pump that's ready to move in and make it happen. The reason you want Lake Avenue, it's such a large pump that it would, take a lot of equipment to move such a pump. And also it's such a unique pump that it's not a pump that I would use for 3, 4, 5 different stations. Whereas in Whitler Drive, I would be looking at, for a specific pump, I should be able to move that pump around depending upon where I need it, recognizing that in an emergency, I don't want to have to create a plumbing connection. I don't want to have to create an electrical connection. I want to be able to plug and go so that everything should be ready. So I wheel it up, plug it in, and we've bypassed the station and are back in operation.
Okay. And Whitler doesn't, normally pump to Lake Ave, right? It pumps up Route 20 and over the hill and down into the.
Correct. It actually took about 750,000 gallons a day of your typical dry weather flow off of the Lake Ave station and goes in the other direction. So it actually removed the flow. It didn't add to the flow.
Okay, cool. And has there been any thought about maybe putting on, a substation or a booster station, halfway up the hill?
And those are the types of things that, as I say, nothing's off
Maybe the
table.
consultants talk about that.
I'm waiting for their report and, to make sure that what are the options? And if there is an option that says this makes sense and this can be done, and it will improve efficiency and redundancy, then we need to think about it and look at that. And, to the city manager's credit, he said, you tell me what you need and what it's going to do for me, and we'll go out and, find the money. We've got a lot of years, unfortunately with this disaster, but there's a lot of concern over the quality of the lake and, maintaining it. So whether we have to go for a state earmark or something else, the manager's willing to go for it.
All right. Well, that's encouraging. Are there any questions or comments from the?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
The Lake Ave station, first of all, I'm not a Worcester resident, so I might not have all of the information. I'm from Grafton. But the uniqueness of the Lake Ave station is that huge head. It needs, as you have mentioned, a huge pump to go all the way up over Belmont Hill through older piping. And since it was put in, UMass has expanded, the biomedical plants along there expanded, the housing and industry has expanded, and it's pumping greater volume, every year. But here's my question. I seem to remember going back 10 years or more that they said they had to continue going up over the hill with a massive pump because the whole area of South Worcester along Route 20 was not sewered. And that once Route 20 was sewered, and it has been done now, that this huge head that have to go over Belmont Hill would not be necessary, because that they could pump the water down Lake Ave and then along Route 20 to the sewage plant, and you wouldn't need the unique pumps that exist at Lake Ave. Now, this is what I recall hearing over the last 10 or 15 years. And my question is, has any more thought been put into that? What's going to happen? Or is that now dead, now that Route 20 has been sewered?
To be honest with you, I don't, I wasn't here. I didn't hear that. I do know that you hit the nail on the head with regards to the large head. It was 240 feet of head, which is you got a 12-inch pump trying to push that much flow in that direction. That's a lot of force. I don't know the answer to that. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I'm sure it's somewhere in the pipeline, no pun intended, that folks are looking at that. But to my knowledge, I'm not aware of that, but I can certainly ask those questions. The Whittle Ave pump station, just completed probably a year ago. So, that's still, just coming online, if you will. I have not heard anyone, at least on the city side, engineering side, discuss the opportunity of redirecting that. I think if there was that opportunity, it probably would have been presented when we were struggling for coming up with a bypass plan for the station. I do know that there is still a pipe in the Lake Avenue that heads in that direction, that there was thought that may be a viable option if we wanted to divert some of that flow out of the station and towards Whitla, rather than all of it having to go up and over the hill. But that plan still would need to rehab that pipe and do additional work and additional pumping to make that come to fruition.
I understand. Just the story was always that it might be easier to go around the hill than over it.
Yep, and it does make sense. There was also the question of whether all of UMass is coming into Lake Ave, and I don't know the answer to that. I do know that the development that's at the top of Belmont Street, where they're looking at expanding what used to be Hospital Drive, that is not coming down the hill. That's going in the other direction.
The sewer connection's going the other way, but the stormwater up there, that still comes to the lake?
I believe the stormwater still finds its way to the lake. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, when we had those issues with 350 Belmont, and they had material stored up there during construction stuff, and every time we got an inch and a half of rain, it would bloom, kind of right in front of the pump station. It would come out there. Luckily, it was dirt and not the other stuff.
Yeah, I think they had a failure of one of their berms or something.
Yeah, well, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on up there, and so is there a time when you think you can? The consultant's going to come back with a report. They have a schedule for that, or?
I've actually got a meeting with them next week to talk about a schedule. I don't want to drive a schedule. I'd rather drive the investigation. My guess is,
yep.
You're looking at a month or two before we get some, really preliminary analysis of what they're going to do. We've still got pumps that, even today, where they're taking motors apart to try and see if they're going to be able to charge them back up, get them back working.
Yep. Salvage
We've
them.
got, some parts on order that won't be here for another 3 weeks. So, it's going to take some time yet. I don't want to give you the impression that, we can miraculously turn this around in short order, because there's quite a bit to go. Even the pump that the seam blew apart and the hole, that hasn't even been pulled out and sent off to be looked at or repaired yet.
Right. So we don't even know what happened to that pump yet. Technically.
Well,
Besides, he obviously blew a hole in it, but
right.
We don't know why. We don't know why it did it.
Exactly. Where the housing of the pump goes around and the impeller is in there spinning, there was a seam that basically split wide open. And how you get this heavy metal to split like that, we don't know. And that's what we really have to find out.
Sounds like a lot of pressure.
Well, it's operating about 150 PSI, so
Yeah.
there's a fair amount of pressure, but something built
Yeah.
it up a whole lot more.
Okay.
Mr. Chair? Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair? Michael Piker?
Sure, of course.
Mr. Jay, tell me, is UMass and the Biomedical Research Park, when it comes into, say, Plantation Street and then going east down the slope, is that all part of the Lake Ave pumping system? Or I think I heard you say the Hospital Drive, which is, if I'm correct, that might be the road that led into Worcester State Hospital at the very top of the rise there where Shrewsbury Street and Belmont Street split. That's pumped, I believe, if I heard you correctly, down Shrewsbury Street. But I'm talking about Plantation Street now, where UMass and the Biotechnology Park is going east down the slope to the lake. Is that all that their sewage assisted by the Lake Ave station?
And I have to tell you, I do not know the answer to that. I can find out the answer, but I'm not.
Because I mean, with all the, medical waste and biotechnology, it almost seems that it would be behoove the state and the city to try to collaborate with having their own pumping system there to get that stuff over the top of the hill to Shrewsbury Street versus have it depend on, Lake Ave. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Polito?
I just want to thank the commissioner for coming on tonight. This is the first time we had a commissioner of Public Works at this meeting, and he answered most of all my questions at this time, and I know he'll get to the bottom of it and get this resolved.
All right. Is that it? Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a question or comment for the commissioner? Okay.
Peter, I guess in closing, I just, again, I want to impress upon this commission that the city, the Department of Public Works and Parks, the city manager, we are all committed to doing what needs to be done to fix this station once and for all, if you will. I don't know what the long-term effects of the discharge may have on the lake, but as the ice melts, we get into the water quality sampling and monitoring, and if Jacqueline and others indicate that there's action that needs to be taken to rectify anything, whether it's the dissolved oxygen or something else, then we will certainly look upon what needs to be done to make it right. And we will continue to provide reports. I'm going to try and do something online so we can sort of let folks know what the progress is, what reports we've issued to the DEP and others, as far as what information is available. And at some point in the future, when we get things sort of understood and get a path forward, if this commission pleases, I'd be more than happy to come back.
All right. Again, I echo Mr. Polito's comments. We really thank you for coming on board. One more thing, Jay. I did have Barbara Kickham from the Quinsigamond Watershed Association just raised her hand, so I wanted to just recognize her, if you don't mind. Barb?
Hi. Thanks, Peter. Hi, Jay. Yeah, I'm from the Watershed Association, Barbara Kickham. We really appreciate everything the city has been doing to respond to this, emergency. We're obviously, a lot of residents have been very saddened by it, but we, really happy to see that you've also upped your communication with us. We used to, have to kind of get it third hand. I'm sure that has a lot to do with Jackie. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the new regulation about reporting. You were already getting much better about that. And, we got a call Sunday morning from Jackie, several of us, and we were, really happy about that to just, find out what's going on instead of seeing it on Facebook or whatever, because there's residents in the condos that were right there. So we just, I'm really happy to hear that the city manager is interested in doing something more about the pumping station, about evaluating different options. It's just very problematic. we've had a few good years where without releases, but we had a release going back to our DP records review. We had a release from 2013 through 2017. Every year there was some kind of release, some big, some little. It's very problematic with the volume, and as you said, the head that they have to overcome to pump it up the hill. So, and the station's been there a long time. It's, I hate to see more money spent on a station that maybe needs to be changed, but I'm glad to hear you're going to be evaluating that. So we're very excited. Also, with infrastructure money coming, it's possible that the city can get some federal money to help upgrade that system. So.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
All right.
Chair? Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Pike.
Michael Pike here. Jay, if I could just say one more thing, besides the impact on human interaction in the lake in terms of rowing, swimming, fishing, kayaking, sailing. The other thing is you got a protected species, bald eagles on the lake, and if they're eating, fish that are contaminated and it has a negative impact on them, that would be a shame as well. I mean, yeah, they're only eagles, but they are a protected species, and it's great to have seen them return to the lake in the last few years. But again, these are predators that do that do feed on fish and wildlife in the water. I just hope we can fix this so that all of these aforementioned things don't get adversely affected. And we appreciate. I want to echo the comments by others. We do appreciate the articulation of Mr. Fink on the part of the city to want to get to the bottom of this and try to correct it and get things right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is that it? Okay. All right. Jay, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next thing in the lake management. I want to talk about the budget for this year. I'm going to pull that up on the screen. So just to kind of give us an idea, at least the draft of it here. So I just got to figure out how to do this. All right. E-tab. All right, can everyone see that? Is that in front of everybody now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, it's pretty simple. We have vegetation mapping for the lake. This is something that we do. This is a critical document, actually a critical report for us, because it really is the it determines the footprint of where we're going to treat and what we're going to treat with and whatnot on the lake. This kind of gets expanded. You can see there's also some money a little bit further down for the survey and treatment of Half Moon Bay and the Old Faith Bay. Eventually, from a weed mapping standpoint, that we're gonna map there too as well. But right now, there's kind of two separate things, because one of them is kind of a pilot program, that the stuff in Half Moon and Old Faith, where we have the endangered species, we have Vasei in there, and so that's a little bit different in terms of how we're treating it today. But overall, that'll be included in the mapping as well. And then we have a drawdown feasibility study for Newton Pond, so we can get the permit started with that. And that basically, this is the feasibility study basically goes down there and determines, how we draw down, and how far the dam can go down, and what kind of impact that's going to have on wildlife and whatnot. So that's what that's for. That's going to be this year, and when we get the permits, we won't have to do that study again, of course. And the permit will, as we go for the permit, that'll be an additional charge. And bacteria sampling collaborative, which is something that we're participating with the Watershed Association and the Worcester Lakes and Ponds program, so that we're doing testing as well. I think it's important that the commission continue and expand, in fact, on our independent testing of the lake, to make sure that we have the skill set and the experience and the credibility with the state agencies to take this on in the event that other means of testing, because Worcester tests, the state tests, and the town of Shrewsbury tests as well. And I imagine that Grafton will probably start testing their side as well. So it's good to have us in there and doing this stuff. I'd like to expand that program eventually, so that we're not just testing for bacteria, but we're testing for other things like heavy metals. The plan long term would be to be able to, we have roughly 200 or so outfalls coming into Lake Quinsigamond of various types, and the bottom line is we don't have a good idea, except for the obvious ones. We have a pretty good idea what's coming out of the Belmont Street one. We have a pretty good idea what comes out of the one in front of the pump station and the one at Whitler. But you get the Coal Mine Brook and some of the other stuff, so we don't know. We don't know what's coming out, and we don't know where it's coming from. So those are things that I think that it's important for us to know, to understand. And then we're also going to ask for help with the vegetation treatment bid assistance. So basically, last year, one thing we realized that you get kind of in over your head. Bidding this stuff out gets a little complicated, in that if it goes down to a per acreage price, there can be a big discrepancy in, someone will come in. I think last year someone came in at $100 an acre, and someone came in at $1 an acre, and we didn't understand why, there was such a wide discrepancy there, and wanted to make sure that you'd say, well, okay, we'll go with the $1 one because that seems like a better deal, but we didn't know exactly what that entailed or what they were talking about there. So that was just one of the things, one example of the complexity of this can get into with the different kind of chemicals. And the challenge is that we've, since our original permits a few years ago, where we had one chemical that we were using, which is diquat. The bidding process was fairly easy because diquat was diquat, and that's what we used. Now we have other tools in the chest, and it's good that we do that. I mean, we have Priscillacor that did a preliminary, at least it did a fantastic job in Half Moon. We have Sonar, which is a better, longer term treatment for milfoil and fanwort. So so we have other tools we can use, but the challenge around that is that the more you have, the little bit the more complicated that the bid process can get. So that's why we want to bring someone that knows what they're doing. So I think eventually, in the long term, this will actually save us money to make sure we're doing the right thing and treating where we need to treat and not where we don't need to treat, and with chemicals that with the treatment plan that makes the most sense. So that's there. And the public safety part of it down toward the bottom, I'm looking for signs at Corazini, and we've talked about this before, that kind of have the rules of the lake on them as much as we can. I mean, there's a lot of rules of the lake. Some of them don't pertain to things that the boaters need to know when they launch their boats, like stuff around the dock permits and whatnot. So we can kind of come down with specific rules that are basically germane to the safety of the lake, like speed limits, no wake zones, especially under the bridges and obstructed view areas and things like that. So I'd like to get those produced and set up, and also some handouts. There's some in the budget there where we could actually give people maybe the full rules of the lake for handouts while they come into the boat ramp. So that's something. There's going to be attendance, not every day, and I'm not sure what our schedule is on that this year, but so we can maybe be able to pass those out. And then we have hazard markers that we have to replace or add onto spots as we find them. So there are a couple areas I'd like to add markers to that are shallow spots that people have hit, which can cause some hazards, such as if you take out your lower unit, that means that it likely will be leaking. So I don't it causes environmental issues and whatnot. Not to mention that kind of thing can stop a boat and cause people to be ejected out of the boat because no one's wearing seatbelts in there. And in the summertime, people are rarely even wearing vests. So, it is a safety issue. So we see low spots that we haven't covered with markers, and we see places where there's obstructed view that we haven't marked out. Then I think we should probably start adding those things. I don't want to make the lake an obstacle course with these things, but on the other side of it, I don't want to make it an obstacle course because people don't know, what's underneath the water. From the top, you're tooling along. It just looks like it's, you're fine. So you don't know how low it is until you hear the crunch. So that's basically it in a nutshell. And are there any questions or comments?
I have questions and comments.
Sure.
Yeah. Jacqueline Burmeister from the City of Worcester Lakes and Ponds Program. So first, the vegetation treatment bid assistance. As far as that goes, the Lakes and Ponds Program puts out bids for lakes and ponds treatments, including all of the treatments that have currently been done on Lake Quinsigamond. I understand that a lot of the purchasing happens through Shrewsbury. I wonder if there's some way that maybe we could assist with the preparation of those bids, or maybe it makes sense to do the bidding through the City of Worcester, or some other way, rather than just leveraging the experience that's already here in that process, as opposed to shelling out $2,500 to an independent contractor to do this work. Second, vegetation mapping of Lake Quinsigamond. The City of Worcester has dedicated itself to sees the value in the mapping of the invasive aquatic plants in determining the next steps for Lake Quinsigamond as far as management is concerned. And so we have dedicated ourselves to doing that. I understand that a lot of the plan is supported through the Lake Commission, but it is really much easier for us to just do the plan on behalf of everyone, or get the mapping done on behalf of everyone. So we're going to move forward with that, and we hope not to duplicate efforts.
Yeah, I mean, I welcome that. I'm excited of both those line items that, there seems to have been an unwillingness in the past to participate at that level because the issues we're facing aren't all in Worcester. So is that something that's going to be okay for the for treatments and stuff like that? I mean, Half Moon there is. I mean, sorry, not Half Moon. Well, Half Moon is none of Half Moon is in Worcester. Some of Flint Pond is in Worcester. The majority of the treatments we do in Flint Pond is in Grafton. So I mean, that's our heaviest growth over there. So I don't, to those borders, does that mean anything?
Yeah. So as far as the vegetation mapping, I don't think so. It might pose more of a challenge for us to bid through Worcester, but as far as preparing the bid, I imagine that we could offer support in preparing the bid. At least
Okay, but-
I personally can offer support in preparing that.
Right. Well, Jacqueline, I mean, you know, again, you do this for a living, so this would be this is right in your wheelhouse. So we're, I have every confidence in the world you could make this program a lot better than it is now. But the one thing I want to, my concern is that this is done on behalf of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission because, we want to keep, the plan, especially the weed mapping, because that's key to the lake management plan. We really need to keep that up over time to make sure that we're treating in the right spots and we're doing it effectively and efficiently and stuff like that. I certainly don't want to duplicate efforts on there, but I want to make sure that we have, that there's unfeathered access to the information, and it's not, we don't have to filter it out or wait for determination or whatever, because we want to be able to move forward. Am I articulating that properly? Or
We have no intention of keeping it for ourselves. All of the documents that
that's not what I'm saying. I just want to make sure that we're working collaboratively, and we're all doing this for the benefit of the lake. And I know you have, this won't be your only thing going on. You got numerous other water bodies you got to deal with across the city. So all right. So the factor I have here for the weed mapping, that came from a proposal from ESS, and that's basically what we were planning on proposing the bid to the similar wording to go out for the bid for that, and also the treatment bid assistance also was a that number there was a quote from ESS as well. So and the reason I'm saying that is that it doesn't matter to me if you go through ESS or whoever you go through, as long as I just wanted to let you know that's where those numbers came from. So from a proposal standpoint, that's not an accepted bid. We didn't go out to bid on it. It was just, I asked them for a proposal to see what we,
yeah.
so I can make
no, it's a clever number. It's just below the amount that you need to bid a vegetation mapping, actually.
Yes. Well, it's just below the threshold of, not having to go out to bid. Yeah. And although I don't think they did this to structure I'm pretty sure they didn't do that. The feasibility study for Newton Pond, that's probably something the city's not interested in.
I mean, we could continue to talk more about it, but
Okay.
right now, as far as what we're looking to do in 2021 is our first priority is the vegetation mapping, and helping you with the bid assistance.
Okay, and it's okay, good. All right, that'd be fantastic if that could happen. Are there questions or comments from anyone on the board?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Polito.
I think that would be a tremendous help, having the city put together the bid on behalf of the commission. They could do that. That would help this board and people at the town level.
Yes.
Speed things up. And if they put all the documents together and we receive them, the Shrewsbury put out the bid as they've always done. That way, the monies are in Shrewsbury, the treasurer controls them. It would be probably go a lot faster and help this board tremendously.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions?
Do you need to, Peter, then amend this before we can make a motion to vote on it?
Yes, yep. I wasn't really asking for a vote on this tonight
Okay.
anyway. I wanted to kind of throw it out there and as a preliminary plan.
Got it.
But yes, we would do this and move forward. And this is going to revolve around. Let me take that back. I actually was going to ask for specific things because we want to move forward on getting the weed mapping done actually. But so we'll circle back around and we'll have a discussion. And it sounds like the city's ready to move forward on the weed mapping. So so we can get that part of it going because that's important. But I don't think we're going to be. We probably won't do the weed mapping until I'm going to say like May.
So the challenge with the weed mapping is that you usually do them by midsummer. So the challenge is that usually you use last season's weed mapping to determine.
Yeah.
So that will be something that have to continue to talk to the current contractors about, and based on what their observations were last year and their recommendations about what can realistically be written into a bid, since you do have to have a certain level of specificity when you're writing something like that.
Yeah.
And without the weed map, it's difficult to do so. So it will take a little creativity, but I trust that we could figure it out.
Okay. What we were thinking is that we'd like to use sonar, which is an earlier application. It's something you want to apply earlier in the season, like right around the early June timeframe. You may know more about that than I do, but last year we kind of waited and we did diquat, and diquat knocks it back, but it doesn't keep it back. So do you have thoughts on that? I mean, some of this we can discuss. We can get into the nitty gritty of it offline, but
yeah, I think that would be helpful. Maybe we could arrange a meeting.
All right.
And talk about that and kind of map out what you're thinking of, because we'll need to know the boundaries of the treatment areas for the
right.
bid.
Yeah, I think we pretty much have a handle on that, Jacqueline, where the milfoil is, especially in this. The only place we're really treated for milfoil is Flint Pond, because we have the invasive we have Vasii and the endangered Potamogeton in those areas at Half Moon. We never found it in Half Moon, but we found it's a null faith. So we'll also talk about that, but because we have to go through natural heritage to get that figured out. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. That's good news. All right. Are there any more questions from the board? All right, thanks. I'll moving right along here. I lost my place. All right, so did I unshare that? Is that still on the screen? Presenting. Stop presenting. Excuse me. All right, we're back. Okay, so we're not going to take a vote on this tonight. We'll circle back around on that one, and I guess that puts us into an update from Jacqueline.
Can I, Mr. Chair, ask a question about the previous subject?
Sure, of course.
I didn't want to interrupt when we were discussing the weed mapping or the treatment on Lake Quinsigamond, but I wanted to ask, what is the status of the two projects we're supposed to be doing on Flint Pond, because that are being funded by the Grafton, because there's a meeting with tomorrow night in Grafton who want a progress update on it.
Right. So we're essentially in the same. I think the consensus is from from the bidding process that we that they were waiting for the ice. There was some talk about doing it on the ice so they could actually sample while they were standing on the ice, but I don't think the ice was that reliable in that section over there. So I think that the issue now is to kind of pull back a little bit, and we're going to extend that into the month of March, again depending on the weather. So I'm hoping to get the bid done and get these guys working on that in the next couple of weeks. So
the bids have not gone out yet?
The bids have not gone out.
Well, that's what we're going to have to inform them tomorrow night, I guess.
Yeah.
And Peter, if I can just give an update too, that I did reach out to the town of Grafton.
Yeah.
And they gave me the forms so that when we have our contractor, there's we get their W-9.
Yeah.
They will submit the bills to us and we'll review them. And then the town of Grafton will actually pay them.
Okay.
It's not like a reimbursement. So we're heading in the right direction. We're getting there, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they originally asked for.
Yes. And the other, speaking of Grafton, we did receive money from conservation. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. We
So I just want to say thank you, Betsy, for making that happen. It was $5,000, if I'm not mistaken. So huge help. So thank you very much. And we really appreciate the effort there.
Thank you. Glad to help.
Excuse me. Okay. Was that it for the
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Okay, Jacqueline.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I just let me share my screen. And I just have a few things that I wanted to share with you. I don't even know where to start. There's so much. Well, no, there's just a lot of exciting things. These are some photos from our most recent Angler Event Series event. The Angler Event Series was actually last year, and the Lake Quinsigamond Commission was part of that for some of the events on fisheries and invasive aquatic plants. We did have an in-person event on Coes Reservoir last week that was highly successful. Great collaboration with Mass Wildlife. They're excellent when it comes to doing ice fishing and ice safety. So I just want to share those. There were Lake Quinsigamond, Indian Lake Watershed Association, and Tatnick Brook sent a lot of volunteers to help out with that. We have been monitoring the water quality after the incident at the pump station. And I'm not going to get into too many of the details of what the results are, since we do have the State of the Lakes tomorrow, and I'll be preparing a more in-depth, sharing more in-depth review of those results. But I did want to show you all the different sites where we are sampling. So this is, you're in the middle of the lake looking north. The pump station is right here. We're sampling at sites north of the pump station, right under the bridge, right out from the pump station, a little bit across from the Marine Corps. It's actually a little bit further south, maybe like more here. And then behind me at Lake Park, out in Lake Park. And so we're teaming up with Inspectional Services to test for a variety of different contaminants that might be found in sewer water, and what their possible effects can be on the lake. So some of the things that we are looking at are bacteria, E. coli, which can make you sick and obviously are present in raw untreated sewage. We're looking at oxygen levels. There's a lot of organic matter that a lot of the microbes in the water will chow down on, and we're worried that in doing that, they're going to lower the oxygen levels in the water, and in the summertime, Lake Quinsigamond is pretty stressed for oxygen. So we want to make sure that we're not seeing fish kills occurring. Other contaminants of concern that you might find in sewer in sewer water, things, like from the medical centers, and are they there in high presence? Are they bioaccumulating? Or I get we're not measuring fish tissue, but are they there in high amount that we need to worry about that? So I guess the preliminary results are that as far as in the middle of the lake, we did see a little bit higher levels of bacteria in the middle of the lake. They weren't above the recreational thresholds, but they were still higher than what we would normally see in like the summer on a normal day, right? We expect them to be coming down. There were some increased levels at the pump station that were later, even after the pump station event had been cleared up. We had been monitoring there just to see how long the bacteria lingered when the advisory could be lifted. They went down and then they started going up. And that was really puzzling because we didn't have any more discharge occurring. So what we ended up doing is the sewer department started tracking upstream, and some ding dong up on Coburn Ave was flushing nitrile gloves down the toilet, and it clogged one of the sewers, and that was causing an overflow coming right out at the pump station. So that was an interesting happenstance that occurred right as we were monitoring for the pump station event that allowed us to track that down, mitigate it. That happened on Friday. And we were able to resolve that. And we took another sample on Tuesday. The results are coming back down for bacteria. And so we expect that those bacteria results will continue to go down in the future. So that is that's what's going on in short in the lake. We're seeing fairly good levels of oxygen. We're not seeing anything happening to the fish oxygen levels just yet. We're going to continue to monitor that. We were able to sample a few times last week, but this week the ice has gotten a little bit less solid. And so I think we're going to go out next once there's open water and we can take the kayak out. And so we'll collect our next rounds of samples probably next week sometime if there's enough open water. But again, we'll be discussing these results and more tomorrow night at State of the Lakes. And for those of you who don't know, the State of the Lakes is our annual event in which we talk about water quality and the projects we're doing at all of the lakes and ponds, technically in 2021. Although this event obviously happened in 2022. You could use this QR code or go to tinyurl.com/blueinthewoo2021. Sign up. Lake Quinsigamond is a large chunk of the presentation, in addition to 3 other water bodies in Worcester. And so you can kind of see some of the exciting projects that we have coming up in 2022. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, Jackie.
Hey.
So I was wondering if we could try to get maybe some more preliminary data. I know you have to go through QA/QC and all that, but if maybe it could be marked draft and tabulated so that we can see where the samples were collected and maybe the depth too. So we're getting we got results from Inspectional Services, and those are separate from yours, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, I mean, I could show you some of them right now if that's what you want to see. To give you a sneak preview. It's not that, they are preliminary, but we're not trying to hold them back. I was just trying to give you a teaser to come tomorrow.
To get to tomorrow night. Okay.
Yeah. So let's see. Where are we? So oxygen results. So we went out to take oxygen profiles 3 times so far, and we took them at those 4 sites in the lake as well as at the pumping station. We went out on February 11th, the 14th, and the 17th. So in terms of oxygen, in the summertime, we see levels at the surface of Lake Quinsigamond probably around 8.5 to 10 milligrams per liter. And that's pretty good. As we go down though, as you go down, there's less in Lake Quinsigamond, and there's all these thermodynamics in the lake that cause oxygen to become depleted in the hot summer months. However, as that shifts and it gets colder, the water becomes more well oxygenated, and pretty much the water oxygen levels are higher. And so what we see now that's encouraging is that when we're looking at the depths here on the side at each of these locations, we sample down to about 35 or 40 feet, depending on the location and how deep it was. And we're finding that there are pretty high oxygen levels going all the way down. And even at the pumping station, we're seeing fairly high levels of oxygen. And so that's good news for the fish, because it means that they're not struggling to find oxygen. And so the different colors here are colors that we use often with the Lakes and Ponds program to determine, to help visually represent if a reading is good or excellent or poor. Green and blue obviously are good and excellent. And these are all calibrated for winter, right? So there's higher standards for what oxygen should be in the water in the wintertime because it's cold, and these are all related to that. So far we haven't seen too much of an effect on oxygen, which is really great news. There is a much lower metabolic rate in the wintertime, and so we are concerned about what happens as things start warming up, and we're going to continue to sample. We don't usually sample in the winter, I should also say. So this is new for us. We hadn't sampled through the ice before. So all this is like brand new data. So we really only have those summer months to compare it to. So we have some total phosphorus results. These are the different locations on the side here. And one is north of the pump station. The pump station is the pump station right at it. S3 is right across from the pump station. S2 is further down by the Marine Corps, and S1 is at Lake Park. And so what we're finding with something like phosphorus, which is one of the main nutrients of concern that you would expect in high quantity in human waste. We're seeing that like right at the pump station, we are seeing heightened levels of it, levels that would be concerning during the summer months, and that we don't normally find in Lake Quinsigamond. And so the other areas, though, a little bit further away from the pump station, we're not seeing them quite so high, slightly elevated over what we would normally see, but not necessarily as high as like detrimentally high. And so we see in places like S1 and S2, there's a lot that are below the detection limits. The detection limit being 0.010. So a lot of these are fairly close to that. So these are some of the other results, and they're all color coded. And you could see that there is sometimes like a little bit heightened result right around the pump station. And then it tends to be a little bit lower going out. And we need to remember that during this time at the pump station, we had another, well, even though the pumping station was no longer overflowing, we had a separate incident that was happening upstream from a blockage in a sewer that was contributing to this. We imagine if we go out and we take these numbers now, that we're not going to see them be quite so high because we no longer have sewage coming into the lake. So this isn't necessarily residual. It's more because there was an ongoing event occurring. And then these results down here are the open water E. coli results that we took on all of those days. And again, so we did see some heightened results. 235 is the recreational standard, and we didn't see any of that in the open water. However, at the pump station, we did see during that period when we saw right after the event stopped, we saw that our numbers were going down, and then we saw them going up again on the 10th of February, and we didn't understand what was going on because the stuff doesn't live outside of organisms for very long. It dies pretty quickly. So when we saw them going up, we thought there's something really weird going on, because even out in the middle of the lake, we weren't seeing anything. So That led to the investigation that eventually found on Friday, the 18th, that there was a blockage in the sewer. We cleaned that out on Friday. They took another sample on Tuesday. This result is not here, but that result came back, I believe it was today, and it was about 400. So you see that like the trend is suddenly going back in the other direction, where we're getting closer to, you know, what you would expect to be there, and hopefully below the recreational standard really soon. Was that too, hopefully that wasn't too much more than you were asking, Barbara.
No, thank you very much. That's great.
Jacqueline, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
I'm just a little confused what you were talking about the sewer. I thought only the storm drains drained into the lake and the sewers all went to the pumping station.
Yes, that is the ideal situation. There are certain types of sewers where in the manhole, the storm drain and the sanitary sewer run next to each other. And if there is a clog, and this isn't everywhere, there's just a few places in the city where this occurs. And if there's a clog in that line near, there is the possibility for it to spill over into the storm drain in that case.
So the storm drains and the sewer drains in the city of Worcester are not completely separate.
In most cases, they are. There are just a few places in the city that they're not. And they are separate. They're just in the same manhole. So in order to reduce it back in the day when this infrastructure was built, and I'm not an engineer, so my knowledge of how these all work is limited, but they do run in the same manhole. So if there's a blockage, then it does give the potential for it to spill over.
Okay. Is that it, Bill?
Yeah.
To answer your question?
Yes.
I think that the ones that are semi-combined are that's kind of the legacy system of.
Yes.
Well, obviously, it wouldn't be anything new.
Yeah.
No, it's not new, and as they upgrade the system, they separate them.
It's just good to know that there are places that they're connected still, so we can still expect when things go wrong, we're going to get sewage from other places into Lake Quinsigamond.
That is a reality. Unfortunate reality at this point.
I believe that the sewer department did send out a PSA to people along that road, advising them not the things that should and shouldn't be flushed down the toilet as well, because these old systems are susceptible, and as are new systems that are separate. Because if this were to happen in a completely enclosed system, it would come out the top of the manhole, and then it would eventually find its way into the storm drain anyway, right? So. I mean, as long as we're not treating our sewers the way that they should be, there's a potential for it to get into the lake regardless.
Any kind of blockage, you're flushing, gloves down the toilet. That's going to be a problem. So, and there was no telling where the source of those were, right?
They found it near Coburn Ave, somewhere on Coburn Ave. So okay, I think they isolated, a block or two, right?
Okay. All right. We'll keep a lookout at Coburn Ave for someone with one glove. Okay. All right. Any other questions for Jacqueline? Nicely, Don, I'm looking forward to the State of the Lakes tomorrow. That's it really is informative. It's a great program, and it's nice to see what goes on in some of the other ponds in the city as well, because there's a lot of they're interesting as well. So tune in, and then I think our next thing is an update from. Oh, sorry, yeah, an update from the Quinsigamond Watershed Association. Are you going to deliver that for us today, Barbara?
No news to report, but we will be having a general meeting March 23rd the Wednesday before the commission meeting.
Okay. Very good. At the Marine Corps? Or is it going to be virtual?
It will probably still be Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll send out an email and we'll put it on Facebook, but I'm assuming it's still Zoom. We'll see how it, what people feel like closer to that date.
All right. Do they have Wi-Fi at the Marine Corps in case some of us want to go down there and Zoom?
Mm-hmm, they do.
All right. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So, and the next item is correspondence review and possibly act. I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to email from Bob Bilodeau. I hope I pronounced that right. About the raw sewers discharge into Lake Quinsigamond. And we covered that. I hope Bob was watching so he could hopefully that would answer some of his questions. And the date for the next meeting. Bob already kind of let that out of the bag, but
So the next meeting is March 30th, and it will, we can go back in person. I just need to find a location.
okay.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Not at the Marine Corps League, though.
Not the Marine Corps. We can do that because we can go to Worcester. We did straighten that out, but we'll come up with something that's appropriate for our next meeting. So we'll have that announcement out soon. All right, and if there's nothing else, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second the motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you very much. So I'm going to go through the roll. Mr. Pica,
Aye.
Sergeant Vitos. Oh, he may have left us. Mr. Polito,
Aye.
Ms. Doherty.
Aye.
All right. Ms. Amory, I saw you in there. Are you still here? Amanda? She was in and out. All right. Ms. Labossiere?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you so much all for coming. We'll
Thank you.
see you soon.
Yep. Thank you.